what can Steelers fans expect from you on the field right from the get-go?
They're going to consistency. You know, they can expect strength and me, like, you know, everybody just says being a baller. I'm not one of those guys that's going to be passive. Be one of those guys that try to pump up the offense and do what I can to make an impact on the game. You know, make impact without having the ball.
And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Ritchie, here on the Masteel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Ronnie, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this damn thing back here next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers did it the hard way.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of the Masteel Podcast here. Part 2 of the NFL Draft recap as the weekend has concluded. The draft, which kicked off on Thursday, included Saturday afternoon. I want to say about close to 5 Central p.m. that day. As you just heard Tamayo right there. One of the Steelers' newly selected draft picks. Talk about none other than guard Kevin Dotson. By the way, I made a big typo, so I want to apologize to all the groups I shared to on Saturday. I realized I shared Louisville on there, so one flop I made right there. I meant to say Louisiana, so I own up on that one. So all the Steeler Nation, Steelers got 6. Steelers Stairway to Heaven, all the groups I'm a part of. I want to make a big apology to that. So sorry for the confusion. I realized I messed up on that one. But as we're here right now, like I said, we got some continuing report card grades around the league right now from different sources grading the Steelers draft picks. I'll talk about none other than people like Dan Brugler of The Athletic, Jerry Dolak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Chad Ruhr of NFL Network, Nate Davis of USA Today Sports, Mel Kiper Jr. of NFL on ESPN, and of course, we also got another one in here, too, for that. I'm talking about none other than NFL and CBS writer Chris Trapasso. So we're going to be getting into all those picks and more, further dissect them a little bit more. If you guys want to feel free and call or text in the number to be reached throughout the duration of this show. It is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on my social media across all Twitter and Instagram platforms, with the exception of the Masteel Podcast, which be the different follow tag. I'll share that in just a moment. You can follow me at Pride Ritchie, at OnDeckCSR. And for the Masteel Podcast on Twitter, it's at MasteelCJR. And on Instagram, it's at Masteel Nation. My YouTube channel, Masteel Podcast. You can also check me out on Anchor and Spotify, Cross Travel Charles Pride Ritchie, as well as Mixcloud Charles Pride Ritchie, for any of the Mass Steel podcast and on deck shows that I'll be hosting Saturdays from 1 to 2 p.m. here. And so let's get ready to dive right into it as we look at it right now. And we're going to be starting off with Dane as we look at the very first one here on this. And this very first great report right here is coming from Dane Brugler of The Athletic here as we get ready to take a look at things as far as his takes on the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. He ranks them 23rd out of all 32 teams. And you look at teams in the division right now, as far as everybody going in here, when we take a look at that. And the teams that he's got ahead of the Steelers, he's obviously got the Baltimore Ravens as number 1. Now the rest of the teams, they got the Browns at number 3. And then also the Bengals, too, who are also picked good. They are 6. So, once again, 1 for the Ravens, 3 for the Browns, 6 for the Bengals, and 23rd for the Steelers of all 32 teams in his draft report card as we look at it. And I think that's really interesting right there, to say the least. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of things that they did, too. I mean, just all the stuff they did. I mean, the draft isn't always going to be perfect. I mean, it's always going to be see where it develop these guys. But I definitely do feel like they asked for a lot of quality depth here. I mean, in this draft, I mean, you definitely got a lot of positions of all needs, I mean, filled. I mean, there's going to probably be like 1 or 2 guys, like minimal, I mean, starters in this group. And more particularly, I'm talking about more like probably like Chase Claypool. And then the other guy, if I had to make a stab in the dark, you could probably also talk about safety Antoine Brooks, in my opinion, the way I see it, as we look at. And I think that's a fair assessment for right now. But I definitely do feel like the Steelers, as always, they came here calm, cool, and collected. I mean, they made their statement in the draft. Granted, it's not always going to be the sexiest of picks, but I definitely do believe they did everything they could to prepare themselves, especially with all the limitations that all teams have been given throughout these times here in this world as we look at it. And I think for right now, I mean, the consensus, I'm averaging, looking around the league and the whole sports world in the NFL, I'm feeling like a B- minimum to a solid B. I'm going to say B- from my standpoint. I just feel like I said, the only disappointment I was in was the running game. I wish they could have probably got like a top-notch guy right there, someone who could have really stood out there. But, I mean, due to their positioning, I mean, you saw finally what they did when they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So, pretty much it ended up leading them getting the Chase Claypool of Notre Dame. And I think that's going to be a really solid pick right there. I'm excited to see a big target receiver. I mean, like I said, I don't think they necessarily have to do it with guys like that. I mean, they've proven they could do it without big, tall receivers in Ben Roethlisberger's career. But, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I mean, he's going to still be the guy that makes or breaks the season, and we already know that going in. But I do feel, I mean, when you look at guys like Kevin Colbert or Mark Khan, and, of course, Brandon Hunt of the Steelers organization, I just feel like they did enough to, like, really – scout these guys. I mean, just some of these guys, for example, when you look at them, I mean, in here, I mean, like one of the guys, too, that Kevin Colbert did talk about, and I mean, what we're talking about here on this, and Chase, well, not Chase Claypool, but this is like one of the players. He said, we never did a physical on him. We never timed him. We never worked him out. We just felt comfortable with his ability to play football. And that was our intention going into this, knowing we would have some players like this that we were going to have to make decisions on. The bottom line was going to be, how does he play the game? In Dotson's case, we value that. And I definitely do feel like Dotson right now, who is an interesting story, by the way. And growing up a Steelers fan, by the way, he was on the PM team with Poley and Miller earlier today, this afternoon. You can catch their show. I believe it's every day during the week from 1 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And some real interesting takes on here, too. And one of the other things they asked him about today, too, as far as, like, his expectations too. They also asked him like on what route he thought he was going to get drafted, and here's what he had to say on the PM team with Paulie Miller.
Kevin, where did you think you were going to get drafted? Maybe not by which team, but like going into it, did you have a round in your head when the draft started?
I was hoping for second, third, but I felt that I wouldn't go past the fourth, and I was just so happy when it actually happened.
And there you have it right there. I mean, he definitely felt like he wasn't going to go past the fourth round. I mean, in this draft right there, I mean, it's just a real good guy to see happen right now. I mean, being on his team and getting the privileges here. And I feel like right now, I mean, his case, I mean, it's definitely a dream come true right there. Be an interesting guy to keep a story on. And couldn't be more excited for the guy. But, I mean, he definitely welcomes the expectation of being like a run blocker, a guy that who could knock people down. I mean, when coming onto this team right there, he's definitely a big guy, about like over 300 pounds. I mean, no doubt about it. I think right now it's definitely going to be wising up right now, because you got questions right now about who's going to be playing. I think right now, for the most part, is like your left or right tackle in those roles. And it's going to be really some interesting times coming for it, because you still got guys like Chukwuma Okorafor, and then who else also going to be filling a guy like Ramon Foster's spot. I mean, those are the main name right there. I think Ramon Foster retirement, even though a lot of people kind of felt it was going to be inevitable that he'd be stepping down, and he did, like right a day after they pushed the NFL draft through. And I mean, he's a guy who's definitely had a valuable career with the Steelers, and did some great things on that line. Definitely stood for a lot of pride, a lot of attitude. I mean, for his overall 12 seasons in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it was, I mean, or 11 seasons, I should say. So I feel for a guy like that who's definitely given it all, given his heart and soul. I mean, for everything that he's did. But at the end of the day, I mean, for him, like approaching close to his mid-30s, there wasn't going to be really things worked out too much in the cards as far as like his overall stay with the team. And I feel like the Steelers right now are in decent position right now to compete with just as anybody into the AFC North, as well as like not only playoffs, but probably a Super Bowl championship. Super Bowl championship is probably still being a little bit pushy, but right now, I mean, it's still going to come down to right now, how much is Ben going to be A, is he going to be healthy? B, how much does he trust his teammates when he does come back? And is he not going to make the mistakes that's going to cost them the game? I mean, it's almost kind of like Michael Jordan, like when you also look at it too, it's like where you also look at right now, you got to feel like right now, I mean, can he do enough to trust his teammates? Because he also got some guys in here, like also in here. I mean, when you look at, I mean, who's going to be backing up? I mean, David DeCastro too. I mean, are you going to be having guys like Zach Banner or Hassenauer? I mean, those guys. I mean, those are still some questions you got to ask right now. I mean, for this time as we get further into it. And I just feel for right now, you got to be very wise. Well, you got to definitely have your game plan. I mean, so it'd be interesting to see how much Sean Surratt does with this team in the season. I mean, he's definitely got a lot more stuff he's got to come through with as far as expectations for this team. And a lot of things that right now, I mean, when you had a guy like Mike Munchak, see how he does in his second year as far as taking over that position. I think it's going to be very valuable. What kind of attitude and spirit does this O-line bring back in 2020? If we do have a 2020 season, mind you. And I think those are things you have to take a look at right now and be realistic about. Because right now, the biggest difficult thing is going to still be, like Mike Tomlin has been thinking, is the OTAs, which started today, and how they're going to be keeping check on video look backs and check backs. I mean, with their coaches and teammates. So, I mean, it's going to be really hard to not be working out there in person, getting an actual up close and personal feel. But I do feel like right now, I mean, this season, whatever it does resume, we're going to find out how much Mike Tomlin's coaching is going to the next level, as far as like not being there in person, but really emphasizing getting his team to the next level. I mean, if you thought 2019 was something, despite having a Roethlisberger-less quarterback that season, I'd be interested to see what 2020 or 2021 looks like, whichever comes first, be from him. And I think you have to look at from those perspectives as we look at it. Again, if you guys want to dial in, send me your calls or your text messages to the Mess Deal Podcast Show. The number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. As we got more coming up as far as grades from around the draft. And also, too, Mel Kiper Jr., by the way, he gives the Steelers the lowest grade in the AFC North Division. He gives, right now, when we look at it here, and according to Mel Kiper Jr., of the Pittsburgh, of ESPN, NFL and ESPN, and as we look at it, by the way, for him, as we look at it for right now, coming up, in just a second here. Here we go. So he gives in the AFC North right now, Ravens an A+, Browns a B+, and as well as Bengals B+. Steelers are the only ones got B-. And he definitely would like to see the Steelers get Ben Roethlisberger's replacement with a guy like Jalen Hurts. And he definitely do believes that they got a playoff caliber defense. Playing also as well, too, can Ben stay healthy for them to compete not only in the AFC North, but also a Super Bowl. And I think that's pretty reasonable. I have no problem with his grade analysis. I definitely do believe the Ravens knocked it out of the park. I mean, when you look at who they drafted in here, one of the guys that's going to be interesting here is going to be outside linebacker Patrick Queen in this draft. I really feel like he's going to be like a decent one here, and he's going to be a nice one to pair along on their defense as they continue to go in a different directions. Second straight year without Terrell Suggs, by the way. And I just feel right now the Ravens, they got a little taste of bitterness for the second straight year, not winning a playoff game. This is not too. It's very unheard of that you hear a guy like John Harbaugh losing two straight playoff games in your opening playoff rounds for back-to-back years. Never really happens with a guy like Harbaugh. But I also got to believe how highly motivated he is, continuing to build his team around the future stud and a guy like Lamar Jackson and everyone around him, and how you do that with guys like Marquise Brown and everyone else. I just feel for right now, you got a lot of stuff and a lot of brain trust in this right now. And they look like they're going to be a threat for a long time. The Ravens. Obviously, John Harbaugh has an extension around the end of the 2018 season or 2019, somewhere around there. But when you look at, like I said, like the picks with the Ravens here, just to recap what they had in here, they had inside linebacker Patrick Queen, who was also an outside linebacker. Yeah, Ohio State running back J.K. Dobbins right here, who's a short and squatty back with quick feet and great burst for the hole. And he's an exclusive open field runner. And of course, you guys got they got guys like receivers Devin Duvernay, Malik Harrison, and all those guys. With their 7 draft picks in here. Let's also take a look at the Browns draft picks here in this year's draft. They got Jedrick Willis Jr. right now, offensive tackle from Alabama. Grant Delpit of LSU. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle. Jacob Phillips, inside linebacker. Harrison Bryant, tight end, Nick Harris, center, and Donovan Peoples-Jones here of Michigan, wide receiver. And, of course, the Bengals right now, by the way, they got their way with bringing in Joe Burrow to the team right now. And for a guy who hesitated on coming over to the Bengals franchise, now seems to be welcome in Cincinnati. He has billboards, welcome home. They also got him complimenting some receiver and T. Higgins, Clemson. You also got Logan Wilson, inside linebacker out of Wyoming. Akeem Davis Gaither of Appalachian State, outside linebacker. Khalid Kareem, defensive end, Notre Dame. And some other guys on here with their 7 draft picks. But I definitely do believe the Steelers this year, for right now, I mean, they got a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of needs. I mean, a lot of needs they need to fill. It's not going to always be the sexiest, but I definitely feel like they did enough for this year. Well, and also, too, I mean, you got to also give Mike Tom a lot of credit, too, for all this. I mean, obviously, he's not, titled GM alongside his name, head coach, but you got to believe he has a lot of say and influence with a guy like Kevin Colbert and trying to turn his team around and keep him going in positive steps forward. I mean, you got to believe he works just as much with these guys to bring trust here. And I just feel like right now you got to have trust in them. For a guy who has not had a losing season yet in his coaching career, I mean, it's hard to argue against that, despite some of the decisions he may be making during games at times. I mean, that's neither here nor there. But that's for another time, for another day, another game, whenever that happens. But you got to learn, you got to feel like a guy like Tomlin continue to trust the process, like they would say in Philadelphia. And he's proven that over time. He's earned that respect, including last year when you do what you did without Ben Roethlisberger. I think that definitely answered a whole ton of doubt. I personally would have liked to see it finish with a playoff spot. It will definitely prove that he could have won without Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, just to have that out of the way. But, like I said, he definitely pulled a lot of strings, pushed a lot of buttons last year. Just unfortunately, the quarterback play just doomed him in. And they just started getting tired down the stretch as their defense. They just ran out of gas, bottom line. So I'd be really interested to see right now, I mean, how much like Claypool right now. Because Ben Roethlisberger, who was another guy who actually spoke pretty highly of Claypool here. And here's a quote. He says, "I honestly don't know much about Chase other than his numbers and size, but excited." As he sent an email to the Athletic after he called Claypool on Friday. "I hear he's a good, hardworking guy and a great teammate. I'm sure he's excited to get to come share a wide receivers meeting room and learn how to be a great player like Juju." And I think that's very complimentary of Ben right there. I'd be really interested to see the chemistry that he could slowly start to develop. Obviously, he's going to probably be more like a backbone support. I mean, maybe like utilized as a wideout more than anything, and Juju Smith-Schuster should be able to get back into the slot receiver role. I think last year he went back to the wideout role. I mean, he was last in the slot since 2018, so I wonder how much more help this is going to provide assistance on a guy like him. He knows he had his quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger last. And this is a contract year for him, especially a guy like James Conner. I mean, when you want to get results, I mean, obviously in life, you need some help along the way. You need people to help pull you down the finish line at these points in times. And I definitely do feel like they got that. As we continue to go a little bit further from this, but like I said, I think job well done this year's draft. I still say a B- at best. Also, let's take a look at some other grades. Come here. We also had someone from Sports Illustrated. He gave them a C for this year's draft. Can't be really too upset with that. I mean, not everyone's be wild. But as we also look at it too, we also got right now from Jerry Dolak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and he gives them an overall for this year's draft. So he pretty much gives right now Chase Claypool an A, Alex Highsmith, outside linebacker, an A. Running back Anthony McFarland, a B. Kevin Dotson, a B. Safety Antoine Brooks and defensive tackle Carlos Davis, a C. So that's pretty much like a solid B right there from him. And I think that's very decent. I mean, for Claypool, he's saying it's hard not to look like a 6'4", 238-pound receiver runs a 4.42 and has an 80-inch wingspan. Oh, yeah, and had 13 touchdowns last offseason. Offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner called Claypool a point scorer because he averaged a touchdown per game last season at Notre Dame. End quote. So, I mean, you definitely see him coming right out of the gate. I mean, coming with high praise for a guy like Claypool and Alex Highsmith, too. I mean, who's another guy who continued to improve in his senior season while playing at Charlotte football, the Charlotte 49ers, as a matter of fact. And for Highsmith, I mean, for a guy who had 15 sacks, 21 and a half tackles for loss in his final year, he says it's indicative of his commitment and perseverance. And he gives the Steelers more linebacker who could eventually replace Dupree either in the next 2 years if they're not able to come to terms on a long-term contract. And I think that's fair. I definitely feel like the outside linebacker, that was definitely a need. You definitely needed to have one, I mean, just to prepare for the future. I definitely feel like they answered that question. I mean, obviously, they try not to leave any doors open. I think they did everything they could here. And for all that, I mean, the criticism that they got before in the past, like how they'd be finishing up, or like the inconsistency of dominating football, I mean, which they've proven the last few years, if they could find a way get things turned around, and they have. Let's take a look at some other guys here. Next up, running back McFarland, your fourth round pick. Your first fourth round pick at 124 overall. Anthony McFarland has any doubts if he's going to be replacing any of the guys like James Conner or move ahead of Benny Snell. The only way he sees it happening is if like one of the guys like something were to happen to a guy like Conner. And with that being said, he wholeheartedly applauded the Steelers recognizing the need to continue to find playmakers for their offense. McFarland is that anyone who can rush for 298 yards against Ohio State and breaks off runs of 52, 75, and 81 yards against them has to have big play capabilities. That's another guy right there you got to look at here. And I think that's very generous of Dolak so far. I mean, the grades. I think he's very generous in this year's draft. And then you also look at guys like Dotson. I mean, right now, who's going to be a developmental player and guard who has a tenacious run blocker. We got him late in the fourth round. And he believes he proves this guy could be a steal from the draft. And should be able to more than likely pick up Steven Wisniewski, but he has a type of aggressive mentality that eventually should fit in nicely next to Marquise Pouncey. And then last but not least of the Steelers draft picks, right now he's also got not last but not least, Antoine Brooks, who right now, by the way, this is an interesting one right now. He gave this guy a C, but he's got the capability to play both not only a safety, but a linebacker, and one of the stronger linebacking types in this defense here. And I think that's very interesting. When you have someone that's multi-versatile and who could definitely be an extra body out there, he's not looking to be a guy who's going to be in coverage, but I definitely feel like a strong safety, you definitely need someone there. I mean, you already got enough free safeties as it is. I mean, you already got guys like Terrell Edmunds and Mika Fitzpatrick, but I definitely feel like right now, I mean, you could definitely like help out a guy like Terrell Edmunds right here, who's done very well. I mean, who had a little bit of a dip off in the second year. I mean, with the Steelers since being drafted, he had a decent first year. I mean, with his team, but for right now, when we look at it, I mean, you get a little concerned right now. I mean, how much? I mean, is he taking a slide right now? Is he not going to be a bust or anything? And I think Edmonds for right now. I mean, with him playing strong safety in both years, I mean, you definitely get a solid backup. And his overall tackles, his total tackles, it went up by about like 27 more. He had more solo tackles and assisted. His pass deflections went down a little bit. So, I mean, just the only thing that he lacked a little bit was just dropping back in coverage. And I think that's just where he got a little bit burned last year. And we'll see how it works out this time around. But I feel like right now with a guy like Terrell Edmonds, I mean, he's still like an interesting guy. I mean, no one has really got like a quite idea how he's going to end up at. He's still a guy we need to pay attention to. I don't feel like we got the overall like true identity of this guy yet, in my opinion. I think he's got a lot of want, but as far as like dictating how his football career is going to be, especially with the Steelers, only time will continue to tell as it moves on. I just feel like he's going to do enough, but I mean, could translate into long-term playmaking capabilities. We'll find out. I mean, it's been really interested on that stuff. Especially, I mean, arguably the last good free safety you ever had in your Steelers career was Troy Polamalu. And I just feel, for whatever reason, that's a position that's going to continue to, like, people are going to look at and judge how they will be going forward as a football team. Let's go to some other grades we got over here, too. Like I said, wherever we gave Mel Kiper Jr., he gave the Steelers the lowest grade in the division with a B-, while the Ravens had an A+, and the Bengals and Browns with B+. And then also, too, NFL and CBS, Chris Trapasso, I mean, he's pretty much giving them a B. I mean, if you really think about his overall grading scale. I mean, for this year. He's got a B on Chase Claypool, a C on Alex Highsmith, A on Anthony McFarland, B- on Kevin Dotson, A on Antoine Brooks, and a B- for Carlos Davis out of Nebraska. And I just really like to see how that continues to mold up. So, I mean, you got some interesting stuff around here. So, like I said, I mean, the draft right now, and I think that's the fairest thing you could say at this point. I'm just a little bit curious right now. The only thing is, I mean, how many like guys like undrafted free agents are going to want to look at coming up down the road? Because remember, when you got some of these guys from the XFL coming in here, who's definitely going to make their mark, or going to try and make their mark, I don't know. But I mean, like, it's really hard to say right now what they do at this point. And one last thing from Jerry Dolak, he definitely feels like a guy like Carlos Dolak. He's going to be a guy that's going to be heading to the practice field, doing limited opportunities that he anticipates more likely, where it's in both training camp and preseason. So I want to ask all you, Steeler Nation, who do you guys feel like your favorite draft pick of this year's draft? Who'd you like, and who are you most excited for? Are you more excited about Chase Claypool, Alex Highsmith, Anthony McFarland, Kevin Dotson, Antoine Brooks, or Carlos Davis? Feel free to give me a shout out here on the Mass Steel podcast page here. We'll talk here Steelers Draft Review Part 2 on this Monday edition of the Mass Steel podcast. You usually catch me throughout the week here. I want to hear who'd you like and why, and who are you disappointed in, and who you dislike, or do you have a little bit concern about going forward with this team? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you grade it at? Are you like me and a lot of people across the league when you look at the difference of grades? averaging a B? Do you give it a C? Do you not give us a passing grade at all? And also, too, what's your? I also tweeted this out yesterday too on Twitter, on my Mastio podcast Twitter page at MastioCJR. I put out a tweet, and I made a tweet, and so far we have 5 votes. Feel free to go hit it up at MastioCJR if you want to set some more votes in right now. Here we go. Oh, no, excuse me, the voting was already completed. So I asked what was going to be the win-loss total. I had 60% of the people chose that the Steelers would go 10-6, while 40% felt like it would be 12-4 or 11-5. So 6%, 10-6 season. I could definitely see that. I mean, going into this year, I actually have no issue with that. When you also look at it too, you're going to be having to face the NFC East right now and the AFC South. And then you're also going to be facing the Bills one more time too. So you definitely got some stuff you want to answer to right now as we look at going into next season. And I think more so a lot of that is because of the way they finished down the stretch in their last 2 seasons. I mean, more so in point 2, I think when the Steelers, at that point in 2018, they were around like 7 wins? And they only managed to scrounge up down the stretch to a 9-6-1 team, which should have been 10-6 when they had that horrible ending in the opening of the year against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. And I think that's interesting right there. My only concern is where I'm going to be interested in seeing is who's going to be the team that they're going to end up facing for the final year of the season. I mean, last 2 years you finished at home against the Bengals in Pittsburgh, then on the road in Baltimore against the Ravens, which, by the way, who actually did not let up and show no mercy on the Steelers in that final game, took it right to them, socked them right in the mouth on a rainy day, and it was just a horrible ending to a season that still had life of a playoff hope. In a similar situation where they were a year before, where you need to win and have some help. Just very disgusting to say the least, how they're able to do things, but that is life in the NFL right there. Sometimes, like they always say, not for long, and sometimes you just make your own bed at that point. So let's get into some fair or foul right now. Fair or foul topic number 1. Steelers will finish their foul game of the season against the Browns. I will probably say foul in that one. I will not be surprised if it's going to come down to either the Ravens or the Bengals. I'm not so sure if people, because remember, the Browns ain't beatable anymore. And you're going to probably want to keep it somewhat close competitive. I mean, either way, a lot of these people and whoever puts together these schedules, I mean, they're going to be a little bit more inclined to see what's going to be interesting ratings, I guess. And will be a good match of what things rolling on the line right there. Also, fair or foul topic number 2. Do you believe the Steelers on their last game of the season, Week 17, will be a late 3 o'clock game where it's got something on the line? I'll have to say fair for that one. Only because you do got a young nucleus of a team right now. Definitely got some guys that Ben Roethlisberger I think is going to enjoy working with, as long as he manages to stay healthy. But you just never know. So let's keep all that stuff in mind. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoy the 2020 NFL Draft this year. And I want to say thank you for those who continue to tune in here on my weekly podcast show, which is here twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Always enjoy having you guys aboard here, tuning in to check out. If you guys want to follow me on my social media, I can be followed at Prodigy Richie at MassSteelCJR, at OnDeckCSR, Instagram at Project Richie, at MassSteel Nation, at OnDeckCSR, my YouTube channel, MassSteel Podcast, and of course, Mixcloud and Anchor and Spotify, Charles Project Richie, and Crunch Time with Charles Project Richie. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Cereals. Here we go. I gone.